So don't worry that much about your mixing. It's totally normal that it will sound different on different systems. The party yesterday went so long that it's now already quite late again. It's another hangover day, the sun is already setting again, and I'm just outside to buy a couple of snacks. Yeah, so basically all you need for a lazy hangover Sunday, watching Netflix, salt and vinegar chips, some sweet gummy sour stuff, and chocolate. And of course, before watching a movie or a TV show, there are a couple of emails I have to take care of, organize some things. Tomorrow I'm traveling to Berlin and I still have to book a hotel and my train ticket. Unfortunately, the most inexpensive train is leaving so early, as I just came back from the party this morning, so this will throw off my sleep-wake cycle. And since I don't want to do another edition of Hangover Storytime, let's do just a track submit. There are so many good tracks that I've received in the past couple of days, and I think it's always fun to listen to different tracks and give feedback and help other people to improve. The first track today is by Dakota. He's 20 years old, a Chilean producer. His typical genre is deep house, tropical house. He's asking me specifically about his mixing, if it's any good, and if I can tell him if he has any talent. First of all, I don't really think that talent is that important making music. It's usually all about learning a lot, putting a lot of time into making tracks, working consistently, and developing and improving. I think talent might be just the last 2 or 3%, and I know so many people that have huge success that aren't talented at all, and I know a lot of people that are super talented but they just don't put the time into it and are not working precise, and at the end they don't get really far. So if you're talented or not, that doesn't really matter that much. But let's just listen to the track and see what we got here. First of all, what I recognize is that there is right around 200 Hz, a really loud, low marimba organ sound. It's probably from the Korg M1. It's way too loud, it's just overwhelming the entire mic. It sounds really muddy. This needs to be lowered, and I think the Korg M1 in the normal mode is kind of layering sounds. It might be too much for that low of a frequency. The lower your frequency is, the less elements you try to have in the tracks. I like the style of the track. It's very typical tropical house. Maybe you should do something that is a bit more unique and a bit more special to really stick out of those thousands of tropical house tracks that are made these days. I like that you used half beats, so just kick, clap, but the kick is a bit too overemphasized. It's a bit too loud, especially in the top frequency part. This is kind of throwing off the groove a little bit. The top flute sound is also a little bit too loud and too harsh. I really like the arrangement. It's simple, but it's on point. There's not too much and not too little going on. I also like the general style and the sounds you choose. They are typical for tropical house, but maybe already too typical, but that's at the end really up to you. Next up is a track by Arrow. He's asking me if there's any issue overall with the track, and it's called Heartbreak. Yeah, I actually like this one. It's a club track. It's really made for the club. It's pretty simple but effective. I'm sure people will dance to this. I like the kick drum and also the FM bass. The bass could be a tiny bit louder actually, and this would give the entire track a bit more character. I'm missing a bit like the main theme of the track. It's basically just drums and the bass for like more than half of the time of the entire track. So like having a main element, and even if you're going for a more club style track, it's still nice to have maybe a chord step every 8 bars, or just something to make it a bit more interesting and to have a sound in it that actually gives the track character and makes it easier to recognize it when you listen again to it. Also the bass melody I think needs to be a bit more interesting or change more, because it's actually the only real melodic element, at least in the parts where the beat is playing. The piano that is in the break is kind of cool, but I don't think it really fits to the rest of the track really. It's a bit too soft, too mellow. I would rather go with like a dark, deep synthy sound, synthy pad, or maybe just use samples that fit more to this old school groovy club kind of style. The next track is by Monero. He is 15 years old and on YouTube known as Casbass. He's from the Netherlands. That name really fits to someone from the Netherlands actually. His main difficulty is the bass in his track, because he mastered it with headphones and doesn't have speakers. Monero definitely gets speakers. They're not that expensive. It's way easier to mix and master with speakers. Headphones, it's kind of weird listening with headphones. Each ear just hears whatever is playing on that speaker cone. And with real speakers also the left ear gets something from the right sound. It sounds way more natural. It's way easier to mix the stereo field. I think I also made already an entire video about mixing with headphones. Definitely get speakers, and even if these are just really tiny small studio speakers, it's better than just using headphones. So I'm really curious to see how your mixing with headphones actually is. Mixing is actually pretty good, so just think of what you could do using real speakers. The arrangement is also extremely good. It's very interesting. It's changing enough but not too much that it gets confusing. The build-ups are nice. You have every 8 bars like smaller the changes that just keep it interesting. Nice rising sounds, a lot of like crash effect sounds, white noise. It's a really well made track. You could do maybe a version that is maybe a minute longer so that people can actually play it in the club. I like the sounds, especially for someone that's just 15 years old. The mixing, as I said, is good. I think the only main thing I would change about this track, or the thing that can get you to the next level, is actually pitching down the kick. It's a bit too high. It's right around 60 Hertz. You can do that, but I think it will improve your track if you pitch it down to 50 Hertz or maybe 45 Hertz. This will give you a bit more room also for the bass, so you can make the bass a bit louder, and will also make the kicks sound a bit better in the club. The next track that I choose is from Decib L. He is a Greece producer. He's 26 years old. He started producing like a year or 2 years ago. And he feels like he's going into the right direction and just wants some general feedback on his tracks. And his main problem is that if he listens to it in his studio, it sounds good, but in the car or in other systems, it doesn't translate as good as on his speakers.
Our love on a place in my mind, trying to find a way to get to you.
good. There's nothing I could complain about the mixing. It's right on point. It's a cool, groovy house track. I like the vocals, the piano, the drums are super crispy and clean. So please don't change anything about the mixing. If your track doesn't sound good on other systems, that's totally normal. Getting your track to sound good on all systems, it's just impossible because every speaker sounds different, every environment sounds different. It's just trying to kind of hit the best compromise to make it translate onto as much systems as possible, but that's actually not really your task. That's something the mastering engineer should worry about. They usually have 4, 5 or 6 sets of speakers. They know all of them really good and can kind of hit this compromise spot on. There are actually just 2 things I recognized in this track that could be improved. First of all, the reverb on the piano is not really tight enough and a bit muddy, so maybe change out the reverb, try EQing it and maybe making it a little bit shorter. Also, there's a point in the track, I think right around 2 minutes and 10, where you introduce a delay on the main sound and it's not really in sync. It's throwing me off too much. I definitely get what you try to make, like build up tension right before it drops into the break, but it's a bit off, so just change the delay to another tempo or reduce it by a bit. That's pretty much it with the track submits. Thanks a lot to all of you for submitting me tracks. If you want to send your new demo to me, just check out the email, it's down below in the description. For me and Vanessa, it's now time to hang out with our good friends, watch a bit of Netflix. We're still not really sure what to watch. I think the last time we had Netflix, we watched Stranger Things in just 2 days. It's really amazing, so now we're trying to find something that is as good. I don't think that's even possible, but if you have any suggestions for a good TV show, please let us know. I just got comfortable on the couch and was then reminded by my girlfriend that I promised her to repair the dishwasher, so probably spending the next half hour trying to figure out what's wrong with it. I still don't know, it's just, I don't know. I think I found what's wrong. It's like this part broke off, so I need to... If you really don't know what to do, just try fixing it with a whole lot of tape. Believe it or not, but it actually helped. The question is just for how long this will fix it. Tape in a dishwasher, who knows? Yeah, the table is now... Let's just not talk about it.